think is a disregard of the law in this instance that led to this commission. And that's a serious issue, and that's serious language to use, but I think it fits this circumstance. We've seen NRC Chairman Jasko order his commission to shut down review of the Yucca application, leading to further delays. And it's very, very troubling to me to see this very talented and dedicated commission really directed from the start not to consider Yucca, which I believe to be the law of the United States of America, and you're not responsible for that. I want to make that very clear as to where responsibility lies for this. But we have spent over $12 billion in 30 years moving forward in Yucca, and now we're at this point where we have a commission that I likened as sort of the group that's scouting the best NBA since Representative Hamilton is one of our great all-star basketball teams. I'll just use that metaphor. It's kind of like they're asking you to scout for the NBA and told whatever you do, don't consider that Michael Jordan young guy. And I think that's the situation that we were in. And you just can't do a good scouting job and not take a look at that young number 23. And this really hits home in my state. We're home to the Hanford site, 9 former nuclear reactors. We were a stalwart in the Cold War, and now we still have that residue in my home state and close to the Columbia River. 53 million gallons of radioactive and chemical waste in 177 underground tanks at one time. We've been preparing and planning for Yucca for disposal since 2002. I've got thousands of my state people getting this ready to ship to Yucca, and it's going to be all dressed up, no place to go. And I've been working on this since the mid-1980s to not see my state become a de facto interim storage in substandard conditions. So this is of great concern to me. And I'm really concerned that if we do require, quote, a consensus, it basically is going to require my state to become a de facto repository for these wastes through my grandchildren's, and I get a new one this week, I hope, her lifetime. And I think that's the route we're on if we don't follow the law. So I guess the first question I have, and I just want to make clear, does anything in this report suggest in any way that Yucca would not be suitable to consider for scientific reasons?
No.
No.
I appreciate that. And by the way, I want to appreciate your personal service. I think you've articulated the position of the Commission well and the limitations of your decision. This is kind of a difficult situation for you, and you've been in difficult situations before. But I guess looking to the future, if we are unable to reach the consensus that you have suggested perhaps we should look for, does it effectively make the current situation in the places that now house the waste the de facto permanent storage sites, permanent in the foreseeable future? Isn't that a fair statement if you share the view that I have, that consensus is going to be harder to find than an obligation to follow the law, which we have in place? Doesn't it make these places de facto permanent sites?
We visited Hanford. Those people were very gracious to us, and we had a hearing there. And I think all of the frustrations which you have expressed came out to us very strongly. And I don't criticize them in the least for thinking that they could become a permanent site because they've had it so long, and the risks, as you said, to the Columbia River and elsewhere are real. The frustrations in our inability to resolve this problem are huge. There isn't any doubt about that. And there are a lot of people who have very, very legitimate complaints. We listened to miles and miles of testimony expressing the frustrations people have with the way the federal government has handled the waste problem. And that's one reason we recommend a new organization, because we think the DOE can't do it. It's lost credibility on it. So the frustrations are there. The question is, however, what do you do? How do you get out of the box? It is the law, you're correct, that Yucca Mountain is the repository. The only problem is we can't enforce the law. That has not been a solution. It may be the law, but we can't enforce it. Okay, is that a good thing? No, it's not a good thing. It's always good if you follow the law. But you can't. And you haven't been able to for 40 years. Now, you can sit around and hope that it's all going to be resolved if the next election breaks right. And that's been exactly the hope for 40 years, and it hadn't worked. Now, we got a problem. We got a problem in this country that is very, very difficult to solve. We don't know if we got the answers here. We think we've got a good approach. And we think it's the only path on the table, if you would, to get us out of the box. And if you stand around and insist on yucca, 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 which people have been insisting on for a long, long time, but have not been able to pull it off, we think the result of that is an impasse, a failure to solve the problem. Where do you go? You can go for another 40 years and not solve the problem. We're trying to indicate a path forward. That's what we're trying to do.
Gentleman's time.